You're listening to Podcast PXN,
a video game podcast
delivering player experience news.
Let's go! Reunited, and it feels so good. What's up, guys, and welcome to Podcast PXN, episode 182. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Prindle, aka Dan is DTM on Twitter, and I am joined over Discord by the Nintendo aficionado and artist extraordinaire, Roshan Warner, at Roro.
Hello, hello.
Oh. And the host of Large Popcorn and video essayist, Christian Macias, at ISO Christian.
I'm going insane.
Insane in the membrane.
No.
Nice. Insane. And Gage, you are returning. The DMZ daddy, the Tarkov Teletubby, Gage Dempster, at Gilbo Biggins. Welcome back, sir.
Good to be back. Good to be back with the boys.
We're all back. We're all here.
Let's take our shirt offs. Shirts off.
TOS. Wow. Glenn's already thrown stuff in the chat. That's dangerous. Thank you to everyone else who is watching us live and participating in the chat. Just as a reminder, we are live each and every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time on youtube.com/@podcastpxn and twitch.tv/podcastpxn as well. Guys, the topic of the show this week is a Last of Us recap for the HBO series and our thoughts on episode 9. But first, the show always starts with the PXN, not news of the week, quick bites. Oh. Let's go ahead and jump right in. First item on the quick bites, guys, is Warner Brothers has officially, okay, not officially, but reportedly delayed Suicide Squad again. So, yeah, I think everyone who saw this footage was a little upset about how this game looked. I'm not sure that this delay is really going to make a huge difference because it's only like a few month delay. But I don't know. It's not looking too good for Suicide Squad.
A couple months, but I don't know what they're changing aside from like various polish and bug fixes. Yeah, that core gameplay is going to relatively stay the same, which I think for most people is going to be unfortunate because it was not exciting. Not for me, and I don't know for you guys. I'm guessing probably not for you guys either.
Yeah, it seemed like that was the general sentiment after that showcase. So. Yeah, I agree. I don't know how much is going to be able to be fixed with this delay.
Unfortunate. I don't know.
Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
You know, like weird. When I think of Rocksteady, I think of like how great their like fluidity in their combat felt, and then just to go polar opposite of something that feels like almost generic looking. Yeah. What are we like? What? Sure, like the cutscenes in the story, I'm sure is gonna probably rock, but that gameplay just, I don't know. I can get that from Fortnite.
Yeah.
Probably better.
And Fortnite's free. Yeah.
Fortnite's free. And it bangs.
Kind of like some other people on this podcast. Our next quick bite. Some people bang on the podcast. Get it? You know?
Like all of us?
Yeah, like with sex.
Right. Next up on the quick bites, Meta has officially announced that they are planning another 10,000 layoffs. Mark Zuckerberg announced this. Terrible. He calls this Meta's year of efficiency. Yeah, what a great term to give to laying off 10,000 people. It's fantastic. Yeah.
What a nightmare.
Yeah. Ugh, not good.
Not good. Why does it keep happening? Stop it.
You know what else isn't good? Reed Pop has announced some of its plans that there is surrounding E3, and there's still not much word on in terms of developer or publisher support for E3, which is very concerning. 3 months away from the show, E3's lineup remains unclear. Today's announcement simply said that exhibitors from AAA companies to indie darlings and tech companies will be announced leading up to the expo. They announced that E3 2023 Digital Week is set to kick off on Sunday, June 11th, and it will include online showcases like the PC Gaming Show and Future Games Show, whatever that is. ReadPop says more events and participants will be announced in the coming weeks. Xbox is also hosting a digital showcase, but it's not affiliated with E3, featuring Starfield that will take place on June 11th. So yeah, I guess Ubisoft is still pretty much the only one that the big publishers besides the PC showcase that we know is officially going to be there. So,
what are the odds there's like a blockchain corner booth somewhere at E3? You know what I mean? Come check out our cool tech.
God.
Do we think that we're going to have to worry about this for much longer? Like, it seemed like this was going to be like the next battle pass thing that we can't get rid of, but it seems like the past 6 months that the whole thing is kind of dying down. And I'm hoping that's the direction we're heading. Do you guys think that we're out of the woods when it comes to like the corporate hype around all these NFTs and all that?
It seems that way here. I feel like there's a couple of companies like Sega and Square Enix that seem to be double downing on it for some reason. It may be maybe that culture is a little bit more welcoming to it. I really don't know, but it seems like the Western side seems to be, at least the bigger companies seem to have slowed down a bit. But I think Square Enix again, like said, like we're going to do this, and everybody's like, no, why? Yeah.
There's still 1,000% like at all companies like R&Ding stuff like this on the like we just don't hear about.
Yeah.
Damn.
Insane. Stop it, Square Enix. Stop it. Next quick bite. Mario movie's official final trailer has been shown. Of course, maybe not everyone here has seen it because they're trying to avoid it for very good reasons, because I watched this trailer and there was a lot of stuff in here that I was like, all right, probably could have done without seeing, but the trailer itself was incredible. I thought it was amazing. Woo.
Yes. The trailer was rad. I won't spoil anything either if anybody hasn't seen it, but there's a lot of cool Easter eggs in here that just, you know, it's a Mario movie and it's doing that really well.
Yes.
I don't think I really care about spoilers for this, but for the sake of anybody else, I haven't seen it, but
okay.
I'll still be there that opening weekend because why not? It looks pretty fun, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Chris Pratt did a good Mario impression in this one. Actually, I was honestly surprised. He let out like pretty good like wahoo. I was like, oh, that was pretty good. Damn. Okay.
I hope so. He's getting paid millions of dollars to do this.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Please do a good job. God.
Indeed. You know who else is trying to do a nice job? I don't know. That was the best I got. Microsoft has signed a third 10-year Call of Duty deal that is bringing Xbox PC games and Activision games, assuming the acquisition goes through, to Boosteroid, which is a cloud gaming service. And also a fourth deal today with Ubitus. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation. Oh, Jesus. But yeah, Ubitus is a Taiwan-based cloud gaming provider that's helped get Control and other games on Nintendo Switch. So it's possible that they may be a partner that they would look at to get Call of Duty to work on Switch. But yeah, interesting. Obviously, this is just, you know, them trying to get the FTC and European, forget what they're called, European
Trade Commission?
Yes, yeah, sure. They're trying to get them to approve their deal. So obviously they're just going out, hey, you got a cloud service. Let's put all of our games on your service so we can make it look like we want to put our games everywhere. I don't know. It's interesting.
We'll see, man. Again, like I said, it's going to be months of this pull and push and pull, to and fro.
Yep.
Somebody continue the metaphor.
Jump and stand.
Heave and ho.
Expelling and impelling.
It is also going to get harder for Sony to come up with reasons as to why they shouldn't do it, though. With everything that Microsoft keeps throwing at them, it just keeps sounding sillier. One? That's true. They haven't, but it's just going to get like sillier and sillier. I feel like the last one was like pretty laughable too. Whatever their last quote was, I remember it being pretty silly.
They're going to Mission Impossible hack our versions of Call of Duty and put bugs in it or something ridiculous.
Yes, it was something like that. Yeah. It's like they're going to give us a crappy version.
We live in a parody world. I can't believe that. They're going to give us a buggy version of Call of Duty on purpose. and somehow I guess everyone will just think that that's fine. God.
Newsflash, PlayStation. Call of Duty's already buggy.
Yeah.
But you know what's not going to be buggy? Minecraft, which is coming to Chromebook, apparently. I thought this was like just almost like a troll post, but yes, Microsoft is bringing Minecraft to Chromebooks. The announcement comes as Microsoft seeks to convince regulators that it won't shut off access to games like Call of Duty or Minecraft, and instead bring them to new platforms. The interesting thing here is like Chromebooks, to my knowledge, don't run any kind of games right now.
No, Chromebooks are glorified like budget tablets.
Right.
Yep.
So that is interesting. I guess that is the first game that's going to be made for Chromebook.
It'll be the Pocket Edition from the App Store.
Oh, that could be. Yeah.
That was terrible. It won't be that.
Yeah. Anywho. You know what? Well, nah, forget it.
Just say the next one.
Say the next story.
Hitman is officially going on hiatus as IO Interactive has announced that they are putting it on the back burner as it focuses on the long-anticipated James Bond game instead. I think this is the right move. Obviously, James Bond is going to probably fill in, some of those gaps that Hitman is going to leave. So, very, very excited for that game, and interested to see it.
Yeah. That's a good transition from one IP to the next because there's enough overlap there, like you said, Dan, that I don't think too many Hitman fans are upset by this. They came, they saw, they conquered. Hitman 1, 2, and 3 were, I think, a lot better than most people were expecting. Well, at least the first one, the 2016 reboot. And I'm very excited to see what they do with 007. So I am not sad at all. I'm just excited. I'm excited to see what they do. And how they can take everything they've learned from Hitman and bring it to a similar sort of genre.
It'll be cool.
Yep.
This is kind of a non sequitur, but it's related. I watched the opening credits to all the Craig Bond movies recently, just because I was on a gummy and I didn't want to sleep yet. I was like, I'm gonna watch all the openings. God, some of them are so good. You know what I mean?
Very good.
Those Bond movies are pretty freaking good.
Yes, those artsy openings. That's a Christian Messias level of opening.
Yeah.
You know what else is artsy?
They're like, we could put words on screens.
That's good, bro. Thank you. That's a great transition because
Thank you.
it's something that I would say.
I know.
Ghostwire Tokyo is launching to Xbox and Game Pass on April 12th with the free Tokyo Spiders thread update. We got some info as well here for what that update is going to entail. The Spiders thread update adds more to explore in haunted streets of Tokyo, including new content, improvements, and an all-new game mode. Take on the Spiders thread mode and test your skills, as well as play new quests in the main game. Capture a souvenir with enhanced photo mode. Explore the all-new middle school area. Pull out new combat moves like quick dodge or charge rush attack, and so much more. Ghostwire Tokyo coming.
How much more?
April 12th. Lots more.
So much more.
Oh, much.
Lots more.
They should convince me to play the base game. I won't do it.
Well, it's free. It's free in Game Pass, right? So
it's also up on PlayStation Plus right now. So
there you go.
There are two excuses. There are two factors. What am I trying to say here? There are no excuses. Squared.
There you go. And you know what else there's no excuses for? Neil Druckmann is again teasing Naughty Dog's next game. He said officially, I know fans really want The Last of Us Part 3. I hear about it all the time. The decision has already been made. I can't say what it is. We picked the thing that we were most excited for. Fascinating.
Don't worry. Don't worry, everyone. It's The Last of Us Part 3.
It's definitely not.
It definitely is. It definitely is. It absolutely is.
No.
Fascinatingly, me and Gage had a conversation about this in DMs with each other because I said the same thing, Christian, and then I kind of thought about it for a day, and the next day I came back and I was like, you know what? I think you're right, Gage. I think it will be The Last of Us Part 3 because
absolutely it is.
Why do we think that?
well, because if you think about it, so the next 2 seasons of the HBO series, they'll probably be about 2 years, 2 years between releases, I would imagine, or roughly around that.
So 2024 and 2026?
Correct. Yes, correct. That's just what I'm guessing.
Those are the years that they release, that the
20
season releases.
2025.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, they're about to start filming season 2 pretty soon.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
are
no,
they?
you're right,
Okay.
Dan. Your original thing
2024.
is right, yeah.
Okay.
So like,
And then,
Yeah.
2024, 2026. So I feel like they would be roughly about the same time for their next game. So if they release The Last of Us Part 3, that comes out, and then they can move on to the next probably
Absolutely.
2 seasons of the HBO series as well to continue that, because you would think that it would have as much content as the second game has. Or that's just what I'm thinking. That's what
It's-
I was.
yeah, my main point from the get-go is that it's franchise momentum. Like, you don't want to, like, okay, so Naughty Dog is a AAA studio. We know they take at least 4 to 6 years on whatever game. Like The Last of Us Part 2 came out in 2020, and we're now at 2020. We're going into 2024. It's starting 2023, and we haven't even heard of their next game because we all know it's not coming out until at least 2025, if not 2026. So in my mind, it would be very silly to release, say, let's say hypothetically medieval game in 2026. That's the game that the core studio is working on, and then now you're going to start developing Last of Us Part 3, or you handed off your bread and butter to a small subset of the team that's working on it while Neil works on it. Like, it just doesn't. The more I sit down and think about this, the more it doesn't make sense. Like, they are absolutely working on Part 3, and all the times he's been specifically asked about it, he's given his famous Neil Druckmann, "Oh, I don't think that's what we need to do right now." Like, nobody said no. They're absolutely working on it. I would put money on it. This is the next game that's coming out. No question. 2025,
Put money on it.
2026.
Put money on it then.
Let's
Put
do it
money on
right now.
then.
Let's do it right
and then pay
now.
me. How much do
Okay.
you want?
I don't think
Wait,
that's how
sorry.
Naughty Dog
Wait,
works.
no, hold on.
Like,
No, they've always operated on what gets the studio excited, and I think there's an equal argument to be made that, like, they've worked on the Last of Us universe for so long. They've been doing factions for so long. They haven't even started writing this until this year. He was open about, like, the writing team that's been organized, whether or not that's Telu related. It probably is.
Okay,
However,
they also don't tell the
new-
truth a lot. Let's be
the
honest.
new IP, like, has been in pre-pro for a long time. Like, that thing is probably ready to go, and I would argue that whatever the studio is excited about is new IP with the new hardware, going in a different direction, and then having that second studio getting ready for when they're done writing Tulu Part 3, whatever it ends up being, they could then shift over that team into the next game.
Now, we know that they've been working on something. Here's the only thing. Here would be my counterpoint to that is, if you look at the timeline of the rumors and the leaks of knowing that Naughty Dog's working on something, and then when they announced that Last of Us Factions 2 would be its own thing, I don't know if there's crossover there. Like, I don't know. I like I said, I am quite confident that Last of Us Part 3 is the next main game coming from Naughty Dog. Obviously not including the Factions multiplayer game, which we know that they're not working on, because that's been explicitly said that Neil is not working on it. Well, and you can also see who's working on it. There's people that are in those roles, so
it could be the next game. I just don't think, if it is, the reason is because of franchise momentum and making sure it lines up with this next season. I just don't think that's how Neil and that team works. And if they wanted to make The Last of Us Part 3, it's because it's what they're excited about. And I'm not sure if they are excited to make that right now. I think I'm on Christian's side with this one. But in the same interview, he was like, we're kind of the lucky studios who gets to do whatever the fuck we want. Like, Sony just lets us do whatever we want, and we put out stuff that we want to make. I know not everybody has that privilege, is what he said. And then I feel like if you wanted to make The Last of Us Part 3, I don't know. I think he would sit on that a little bit longer before putting it out. But I could be wrong.
I don't necessarily disagree with you in terms of I think Last of Us Part 3 is their next game, but I'm not. I think it is the game that they want to make. So This is kind of like a chicken and egg thing, where it's like franchise momentum, I think, is absolutely a part of it, but I think I don't know. I think a lot of these things are planned out years in advance, and I am taking the fact that the HBO, like, I don't think it's as linear as you guys are talking about. Like, I think the fact that the HBO show was put into production and they started working on it, even though they had been talking about it for like 3 years prior, is a sign of them probably already starting on Last of Us Part 3. Like, I don't think it's as linear as like, oh, the Last of Us show is out now, so now you need to make Part 3. I think it's like, no, they had finished Part 2. They were working on factions. Maybe Neil got super excited. So then Sony, between discussions between Sony and Naughty Dog, is like, okay, you guys are making a push for The Last of Us. Now's the time to do the show. So for me, I just see everything lining up that way. But you guys totally could be right. Agree to disagree. I think Last of Us Part 3 will be coming out no later than 2026.
You know what? I hope you're right. Honestly.
Well, Dan's trying to get in a word.
You're good. Let me play devil's advocate for a second. I'm not quite as deep in.
White people love saying this.
I don't know. I'm not quite deep into.
It's true. Oh my God, we do.
I'm not quite as deep into thinking The Last of Us Part 3 is their next game as Gage. I think that's what I'm leaning towards, because obviously I switched my opinion in 24 hours
after you talked.
Well, we know that you're a flip-flop. You're a famous flip-flop.
Not a flip-flop. Got him. But I think it's fascinating because I do think that they initially started working on their new IP after The Last of Us Part 2, but my question would be, in the moment of Neil working on the HBO series of The Last of Us with Craig Mazin and having those conversations, I'm wondering if Neil had his mind changed and said, okay, at this point, we've already got this new IP started, but it's still early. But this is really exciting me. Like, I've got a lot of new ideas for The Last of Us, and Craig's given me these great ideas, and like, I could turn this into another game and like capitalize on this momentum that we have. And that might be what excited him, and they start working on The Last of Us Part 3, at that time.
I think everything you're saying is an argument to be made in the opposite direction, because he's going to be just as hands-on for season 2, and that is being split up into multiple seasons, which means he's going to be having to spend time away from Naughty Dog.
That's fair.
And if he's spending time away from Naughty Dog, he does not have the time to be on hands with creating Part 3, because he wrote Part 2 as like with Hadley Gross. And if that writing team has expanded, then they can help direct, sure. But I think he would want to be on hands with the direction of all these scenes personally.
That's fair.
So I think him as co-president, with being hands-on with HBO and Craig, allows, I think Evan Wells is the other co-president at Naughty Dog, to then help direct the ship of their new IP, while Neil helps out with HBO.
You know what's funny is that it's funny that we took two different things away from that, because while Dan was talking, I actually thought that strengthened the argument on Dan and I's end, where it's like, not only is there franchise momentum, which may or may not be a thing, but we all work in content creation. We all have YouTube channels. There is such thing as creative momentum. Like, if you're working on a short story, like, to put that down, come up with a whole new thing, and then come back to that, I don't know if that's what they'd want to. Like, it's hard for me to see everything that's happening, hear Neil talk about HBO and The Last of Us and the show and working on it. It's hard for me to think that Last of Us Part 3 isn't the thing that they're most excited about right now. In terms of in a headspace and creating lore and writing, it's really hard for me to see them putting down this story, working for 5 years, like making his main focus the new IP, and then coming back to the last. Like, I don't see that in my mind. But
in the same breath, there's also Burnout too, where he's been doing
very
Last
true
of Us all this time,
love you,
and
bro.
now it's
That's
time
true.
to do something else. But yeah,
true.
I think we're on like, it's just a back and forth, like ping pong with this one for sure. Anything could happen.
Ping and pong.
Yes.
Ping and pong, if you will.
Yeah.
To play devil's advocate.
Man. Both conversations very valid. I'm excited to see what happens.
Come here.
What is our oh, sorry, bro.
No, I'm just so happy that there is a future someday, that there is a Part 3, like eventually. I'm just so excited to play that game whenever that comes.
2026.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And I can finally put my Part 2, criticisms away. And move.
What if it's more controversial? What if they kill Ellie in the first 3
What
seconds?
if Ellie gets beaten to death with a waffle bat.
Yeah,
Wiffle
buy a brand new character 5 minutes into part 3.
Yeah.
Good lord.
Lev just comes up and shanks Ellie in the very beginning of the game.
Oh my gosh.
I'd play as Lev.
Yeah. Anywho, all right. Jumping into our street meet. Let's try not to get hit by a car and turn into street meet. I don't know why that was a good transition. Grand Theft Auto 6 has gotten some leaked screenshots that shows us a proper night scene in the open world with a moan here. Whoever put this in here.
That was me.
Okay. Gage. Yeah. This screenshot looks
It's not a blue filter. It's
looks,
good.
Yeah,
it's very good.
Yeah, the secondary characters are obviously like stand-in or whatever, but the main character
sure.
looks good.
They look like action figures. If you look at their knees, like their
Yeah.
joints, they're straight up like action figures.
Yeah.
But like in terms, if that's the lighting art style that they're going for, that looks absolutely awesome.
Yeah,
This might
it
be
does.
the first game that we like. Imagine the headlights, like you driving out in the boonies. Like that would be great because
Whoa.
very few games have been able to give us a proper dark, high contrast night. A lot of the times it's just like I said, blue filter, right? So looks good. Also, the screenshot, like I'm looking at this, I'm like, I feel like this game is closer than people think. Like this, like as you said, the people to the left, like the NPCs, are obviously not done. But like looking at like how it's not a gray box test, and like if you look to the right of the chain link fence, they have like litter on the ground and stuff placed. Like this kind of looks like something that you'd see like in a game that's like a year or two out.
What you don't see is behind the camera, Gage. It's all just white space.
That's true.
I'm kidding.
That's how it works in real life, though. If you close your eyes, the world doesn't render.
Oh shit! We fall
Yeah.
through the world.
Matrix.
Our next street meet item, Christian added live here. PS5 Pro and Slim rumors, which I have not
Yes,
seen.
sir.
This.
Yeah, this came from Tom Henderson on Insider Gaming. The article was posted yesterday on Pi Day. Exclusive PS5 Pro in development, could release late 2024. I don't know if this is 100% accurate. I think, like, I think it was Jeff Grubb who was talking on the Twitter thread, talking about how like the jump from PS4 to PS4 Pro, why that was so enticing is that like 4K TVs became more affordable, and having 4K on the box of like a console was enticing. Like, what is going to be the jump between PS5 and PS5 Pro? Ray tracing, like
No, it can't
better,
be.
like, you know, more like just stable frame rates, like, or higher frame rates. Like that doesn't sell as high, so a slim would maybe make more sense. Was some of the case going on? Also, like, think about how many next gen games we've gotten across the board between Xbox and PlayStation. Like, it still seems like still feels early in the life cycle, even though we're already like 3 years in, going on maybe 4 at the end of this year.
Right.
But it still feels like we're like at the beginning of the cycle. Like, and this has everything to do with how games work now and how much longer they take. You know, the bloat happening.
Well,
But
and even just the climate and entertainment, right? In terms of inflation and all this stuff, and like it feels. I think it feels like we're earlier in the life cycle than we actually are, because we've also been hit by a pandemic. Spending has been down, so you know, when you think of the 360 era or even the Xbox One era, I mean, those first 3 years, games were coming out. People wanted to spend money on games. We were playing a lot of games, so those years kind of flew by. And by the time we got the Xbox One X, is what it's called. Phil, we gotta talk, okay? But I'm gonna put a pin in that. By the time the Xbox One X came out, and like you said, we were able to put 4K on that box, and yeah, it felt like cool. We've gotten our money's worth of the original, but now it's kind of like, I don't know. It feels like everything's been on pause for the first year of this generation. So I don't know. I don't think it's earned, but so my point is, I don't think the PS5 Pro is the right call, but I probably believe this. I mean, Tom Henderson's had pretty good sources. I don't know if there's been a major story that he's broke that's turned out to be false. He's heard through the pipeline that there's a PS5 Pro in development. There probably is. Whether or not that should or should not be released, or it's too early, we're all probably on the same page that it's a little too early, I think. But I don't think Sony, again, businesses don't think the same as we do, right? So
yeah, I was going to say, like, I have no doubt that it is in development, because they have to, because just in case competitors have something else that they want to put on SKU, Sony will be ready to respond. Whether or not they actually release it, or that strategy, or when, is entirely just like up in the air. So I'm with you there.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is like, what's the price going to look like? Because PS4 Pro launched at the same price as PS4, right? $400.
Right.
So,
well, I mean,
Mm.
not to bring it back to Christian, but like the good point is like, what is the advertisement? What's the sell? Because we've already made the switch from hard drive to SSD, which is a huge leap for console gamers. Like,
Sure, yes.
as you know, I mean, I know you guys have PCs too, but I mean, if somebody like a lot of my friends are just console players, they don't know anything about PCs, and they all noticed immediately, right? That was one of the big selling points going into this generation. SSDs, you will feel the difference. Xbox, I mean, even PlayStation has you can shut down the console and resume your game, which is kind of wizardry. That you can't, I mean, and then Xbox has got quick resume. You can do that with 3 games at a time. Again, also wizardry. So I just don't know what the selling point of this like, what is Sony going to prop this up as? 8K? Nobody has 8K. Nobody wants 8K, really. 8K is really only a thing for content creators, like people making like graphic design or like, you know, like it's not even really a thing that anybody wants in gaming. Nobody's going to take, oh, sure, I'll have 8K 30 FPS over 4K 120, please. Like nobody's saying that. So I don't know. Like, what do we think is going to be on the box? What's the reason to buy a PS5 Pro?
There is none.
There's none. Yeah.
I simply wouldn't.
I mean, it could.
I'd simply abstain.
It could be higher frame rates though, because there are games now that still struggle to even get 60 frames per second. Like there's still AAA games that release that aren't 60 frames per second on this gen. So like I could possibly see them marketing it as that, like something more stable frame rate wise.
Or like instead of dynamic resolution, like it's
right.
now like right. So you're totally right. I could see them pitching that, but it's like
it doesn't
fuck.
translate.
Like nowadays, it doesn't translate. But
Yeah.
I don't think it translates because nowadays I think a lot of the problem is like poor optimization on dev side. You know what I mean? Like these are very powerful consoles. So I think you're right. I think you're right. That is what they'll tout as like the reason to get it. But like even that is not a fix all, because it's like, okay, but a lot of these games that don't run at proper 60 on console, if they released a year later, they probably would. You know what I mean? Like,
I would get the ick personally. You're gonna ask me to spend $500 more dollars? I just bought this damn thing.
Just got this thing.
People
And
can
they just
barely find it
released-
in stores today.
and
Well,
they just
this
released
year.
the VR 2 for another huge price tag. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
not going to be good optics. I don't understand what
No.
Sony's doing.
Well,
And we're going to recession? Nah, get out of here.
to that point though, they released the PS4 Pro only 3 years after it came out. So after
Right, but there
PS4
was a
came
bigger
out.
reason for it, right?
Agreed.
Like you said, the 4K.
frame rate.
Yeah,
Agreed, but the price point, you know, it's still the same price.
True.
I don't know.
Yeah, if I didn't have one, maybe I'd consider getting a Pro, but I already have a PS5.
Absolutely.
And
Get
that's
me the
the thing,
detachable
right?
disk drive first, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, when is
It'll
that
be
coming? I thought that was like pretty soon.
and you know what's funny is that Tom actually, I don't know if it was in his original article about the diskless accessory or if it was in an update. But apparently, it's looking like it's not going to be compatible with the current generation of PS5, which is also fucking
I'm going
hilarious.
to kill myself.
Right?
Going to kill
No.
myself.
That is ridiculous. This is Jim Ryan's Sony. Like, I'm pretty sure one of my first episodes on the podcast, we were talking about, like, you know, these things take years to adjust. And, like, a lot of the games that came out in 2019, 2020, they still would have been approved, like, in Sean Layden's kind of era of PS5. So it's like, now that we're, like, 3-4 years in, like, this is what Jim Ryan's PlayStation looks like. It's getting a little bit silly, in my opinion.
Get a little silly, get a little goofy.
Get a little goofy, little silly, goofy guys.
Getting real silly and goofy, like Capcom's Spotlight recap for March 9th in our PXN News of the Week. I should have put the Neil Druckmann thing in here because I'm not sure we're going to even really have much to talk about in this, but, you know, here we go. We've got some Capcom news, guys, which I did not watch this event, to be transparent, because I was like, I don't think there's going to be anything there for me, and I'm purposely avoiding Resident Evil stuff at this point.
Right.
But we got some announcements, so I don't know if you guys care about any of these, if you want to highlight any in particular, or I could just blast through
You
them.
could skip the story altogether, Dan.
Oh,
but
Blast through it, Daniel. Blast
Shit.
through it.
Exo
Blast
Primal, that's
me.
going to be gone by like a year after it launches. Let's be real.
I'm totally playing that game, by the way.
Exo
Whoa.
Primal?
Exo Primal.
Yeah,
Isn't it
I
like
think I want to try it.
isn't it like a
doesn't
Musou
look
sort
good,
of
though.
like Earth Defense Force type game?
It's like, yeah, sort of. It's like a hacking slash multiplayer PvE
It's
sort of thing.
multiplayer?
I think so.
Ro,
Yeah.
I'm gonna play Exo Primal with you. I'm
Let's
stating
go.
it
No,
right
we
now.
gotta play Sons of the Forest first.
We can
Not
do that
true.
now. I can do that anytime. I'm literally
Yeah, then.
always open, except for when I'm not.
And they did
True.
announce Exo Primal is coming to Game Pass day one.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there is a reason. There is a
There is.
reason.
We got to look at Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. I don't know. Sure. We got another look at Street Fighter 6.
Woo!
All right.
Woo!
Yeah.
They revealed a new cast commentator person.
Oh.
Yeah.
New commentator.
Like a real person or a character that
They have like live commentary for the fights, and they have a bunch of voices that you could choose from. And they revealed another. And it's a real person, yeah,
Oh.
like a celebrity.
Oh, it's a.
Hold on, I
oh.
scroll down. There's something I like.
Oh, Christian, there's something Christian likes. Is it the digital theme park called Capcom Town, celebrating
I
the
don't
company's
know.
40th anniversary?
It's not that.
We already talked about Exo Primal, so I won't dive into that again. We got a new trailer for Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, which launches
This-
June 30th.
This could be cool,
Ooh,
by the way. Yeah.
okay. Okay.
I'm not, I don't know if I'm into this. It'll be entirely for me, but like my interest was piqued.
You heard it here first. Christian, his interest
Oh,
might
well.
be piqued.
I'm always piqued.
Yeah. We got Monster Hunter Rise's expansion Sunbreak, which got its moment in the spotlight. It's due out April 28th. Interesting.
I think
Here
we
we
may
go.
have. Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. Whoa! Are you kidding me? Dan, say it.
What?
The thing.
Capcom
The next-
teased upcoming CG movie Resident Evil Death Island due out this summer.
What's
Wait,
the thing?
was that
Jill
the thing?
Valentine looks crazy good in this.
Crazy good.
She looks
Yeah,
really
she
good.
does. She looks.
And apparently she's meeting what's his face for the first time. This is their first
Leon.
time. Yeah, they're crossing paths for the first time apparently.
No, is
That's
it Leon?
cool. I think so. I think Leon's in it.
It's either Leon or it's Chris Redfield.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's. I don't know. I don't remember. I shouldn't be the one to confirm this information as I have not played any
should
of them
not
to
be.
completion.
It's a
Don't be so
Resident
reckless
Evil
with your
2.
information.
Is it based on RE3?
It's
yes.
Is this the animated movie you guys are talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, they have as much to do with the games as like not Angelina Jolie. What's the other one? Mila
Mia
Jovovich?
Jovovich. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they're related to it's.
Yeah, they're whatever.
It
They do
does.
whatever.
It does use her Resident Evil 3 remake look in this.
Yeah.
That's why it looks so good. That's why
I
it
had
looks
an
so good.
ex-girlfriend that was obsessed with these movies and made me watch them, and they're really bad. Well, I mean, I don't like them. They're whatever. But
No,
they have.
they're
let me tell you.
not very good.
Let me tell you, they have nothing to do with the game. They are fucking out there. So if somebody's looking at this thinking that they should watch this because Resident Evil 4 is coming out, let me just tell you, you do not. You can stay far away. You don't have to.
And then finally, the big finish. We got some more
Yes, sir.
Resident Evil 4 remake footage, as well as the announcement of the Chainsaw demo, which people might have played this.
Yeah, and that leaked beforehand too. The
Yes,
demo
Did.
announcement.
did.
Yeah.
Indeed. Okay. So, moving into our fantasy draft check-in, guys, we have some upcoming releases to just, highlight real quick. We don't have any new games that released that got scored. So, upcoming games, Resident Evil 4 Remake coming March 24th, next Friday for me. Let's go. And then Forza Horizon 5 Rally Adventure coming out shortly after that. So we may get Resident Evil 4 Remake reviews next week, hopefully. Knock on wood. We also got...
I'll be too busy watching John Wick 4.
Oh, okay, all right.
A lot of
What are
fours
the
that
odds that
week.
they made 4 of these movies and they all turned out to be good? What are the odds?
It's crazy.
Well, they are good.
No, I
And we're
know.
on 5.
I saw the first movie came out. I remember seeing the trailer, thinking this is gonna be dumb, but I'll go watch it. And then it's an actually good movie. And then the chances of it being a bad movie increases with every sequel. And it has that's what I'm saying. Like, what are the odds?
People-
you know what I mean?
People are lauding 4 as one of the best action movies ever made.
That's
I'm
crazy.
I'm pumped.
I'm excited, but that's crazy to me. I would have never guessed. I would have never guessed it.
Sorry, Dan, I derailed.
No, you're good. We have a bunch of
derailed as
April
well.
games on the way, but we'll wait to go over those till April. So. All right, guys. Let's move into what you got for me. Just more Halo Infinite. I played a little bit more co-op campaign with Glenn. He requested we played up one more mission, I think. And then Season 3, I've been playing the heck out of. There's a new mode that came out yesterday, actually, called Fiesta Big Team Battle, which is really cool because it has the campaign variants of weapons. So like they have their weapons that have different like abilities and attributes to them that they're putting into this, as well as the equipment that is in the campaign as well. That is like the upgradable equipment, like with shock grapple shots, and so all of that is randomized in Fiesta as well. So Fiesta is just random weapons and random equipment. So they're throwing that in as well. So I think that's really cool. But I also played Resident Evil 4 demo, which is fantastic. Fantastic. It's really good. The only complaint I have is it feels a little stiff for me on controller, and it might just be something with that engine.
That's Resident Evil.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say. It feels like a little bit, it needs, I told Gage, I think I was talking to him about it. I was like, it needs to have the ability to turn down the dead zones on the sticks, because I'm so used to playing with almost no dead zone that when I play Resident Evil, it's really hard because it's like you have to like move the stick pretty far over for it to start receiving input. So that's my only complaint, but overall, very good. Very much enjoyed it, and that chainsaw scene, woo, it still hits.
Yeah, I tried very hard not to play it because like I can wait 2 weeks for me to wait until the game releases, because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna buy it when it releases.
Yeah.
Right.
And then one night, so it goes for me. I had a gummy, and I'm like finished what I was doing, and I was like, well, it's still a bit too early for me to go to sleep. Oh, this demo is like only like 16 gigs, dude. Download it in like 5 minutes, easy, no problem. And I played it, and I was very happy. I was like, oh man, this is like familiar and yet refreshing enough, like a nice little spin on it, like where it's like, like this is starting different, and like, all right, we'll see how it plays when we get to like that famous opening section. And I felt tense in a way I didn't when I played original RE4. Again, that has to do with like the stiffness, but it still felt like a modern controls, and the addition of having that crouch mechanic was cool. The lighting was fantastic. Being able to parry enemy attacks. Go ahead.
Were you playing on controller or mouse and keyboard? Just for the.
Oh, I downloaded on console, so I played controller. Yeah, and I don't know, man. Like it felt like there was a lot more enemies compared to the original RE4.
Yes.
So much so that like I was like being way more overrun, and like I couldn't just camp out like on the rooftops. I had to like run around and actually like engage with the enemies, and like it was awesome. I felt really tense, and it makes me excited to see how the rest of the game is going to play out, because there are some hugely intense moments later on.
Right. I want to give kudos to Capcom for specifically the Resident Evil team, because like small changes like that, like just you saying that when I was playing Resident Evil 2 remake, I kind of felt like that on a smaller scale. But I liked how as they make these remakes more fluid, like we're talking about, it's still stiff. Yes, it's still Resident Evil, but obviously compared to the old games, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 4 remake, they play way more fluid, way faster than the old ones. So I like that they're adding more combat to that. I haven't jumped into the Resident Evil 4 demo yet, but just hearing you guys say that there's more enemies and you actually have to feel like, okay, if I start going guns blazing, I'm going to get overrun. Like, I like that. I like that they're not just improving the mechanics of the game and then also keeping it the exact same. It's like, okay, well, if our player is now more, adept at combat, we should, alter the game around that. So I like that. I like hearing stuff like that where they add more enemies or they add sort of tension into it after the fact. That's cool.
I'll say that the VR version of this game was really cool, and it changed the gameplay in that like your inventory was on your body, so it made like the gameplay like that much more. I mean, immersive feels wrong. I mean, it's the right word, but it just feels kind of corny to say. But it's much more present and in the moment when you're having to like just like reach over to grab different parts of your inventory, and it puts you like in that moment. And this did something similar where it's like I don't have to switch to my knife. I can just like tap a button when someone is attacking me, and like I do a quick like parry. And if I time it wrong, I'll get like stabbed, and some of my health goes away. But it felt like a much more present experience and something that I don't know, modernized, really works, and I was like very pleasantly surprised. So I'm pumped now. All of a sudden, I'm pumped.
Hell yeah.
Well, Christian, what else have you been playing since you've been playing before? Yeah.
I need to be in cozy mode, and I have been jumping back into Animal Crossing.
Oh, hell
God
yeah.
help me.
Wow.
But I've been just like reorganizing some furniture. I did get one of those Treasure Island codes, and so I went over and I was like, wow, there are like almost every single item in the game available to me right now that I can just grab. And it was like I took a few items home. They changed the code. I couldn't get back in, but whatever, like I just decorated a few things in my bedroom. And I was like, yeah, this is nice. Changed my outfit in the game. Oh, got some Hello Kitty merch in Animal Crossing.
Nice.
Not specifically Hello Kitty, but like, Cinema Roll and Pom Pom Purin and the rest of the Sanrio characters. I digress. The most important thing is that I have been squabbling in Fortnite, whatever chapter, season 2. And I'm finally gonna say this. This game is good. Somebody tweeted out like, this game is actually a movement game. And that is when it hit me. Whoever tweeted this, you are 100% right. And that's exactly why I love it. Because I'm getting the Titanfall itch every single time that I'm playing. Because I am jumping, sliding, and now grinding around the map. And like, in ways that I really missed. Gage shared something in the DMs about like the canceled Titanfall 3 project. And all these changes to Fortnite is entirely what I was missing from Titanfall. I'm having so much fun and will be continuing to have so much fun. I bought the Battle Pass, man. I spent money on this game.
Fuck, eh?
On some anime characters, right?
Do they still have no build mode as like a permanent feature?
That's the only thing I play. I will not be building in this game.
Okay. So I might have to re-download that.
See, you guys are on the wrong team. If you guys were saying, yeah, well, let's do the build mode, I'd be all down. I'd be like, yeah, let's get back in. But you guys
go play by yourself, man.
You guys suck at building, so you can't freaking do it.
Because I don't want to build a 3-story colonial. I want to get into a gunfight.
You do. That's the whole fun of it. You build to protect yourself. That's the whole fun of it.
Go watch HGTV if you want to fucking look at home decor. Like, I don't want to...
Nice.
Got him.
Jesus. All right, Ro, help me out here. What you got for me?
I can't help you out because I've also been playing Fortnite.
Build mode? Build mode?
Not build mode, no.
Come on!
But I can
team up, dude.
I can piggyback off of what Christian was saying, and it does.
Before I'm going to jump in real quick.
Yes.
I have to just leave the mic real quick. So I haven't been playing anything. I played Halo Season 3 with Dan. Rashan, take it away. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm excited.
Yeah, the movement in that game feels so good. Like, I haven't played it in a while. I think I skipped like maybe a season or two. So when I came back and I booted this up, I was like, why is my character running so fucking cool right now? Like, what the hell's going on? And then I did the slide, and then like Christian was saying with the grinding and the new city, is like, the movement feels really good. And I haven't won a game this season yet, but I've gotten really close. I'm just like, okay, one more game. I could do it this time. But it's a blast, and I've always thought that Fortnite is good, but I think it just keeps getting better with each season, where they keep adding more stuff to it and making good changes with the weapons and stuff. I'm just glad that it's always there to come back to. Like, it's just a game I could hop into if I feel the urge. And usually when I do come back to it, it's like, wow, this game has changed for the better since I last played, and maybe I should stick around a little bit longer this time.
Dude, because I said this like last week. I'm sorry that I'm a Fortnite guy now, but like again, they change this game every week. I don't understand. In 2 weeks, this game is going to be different because they add Eren Yeager, and with Eren Yeager, they add the ODM gear. Like that's coming. What?
It's insane. And there's a new weapon this season, like a katana sword, that it's I guess it's kind of replacing the Deku Smash. But that's fun to use on people too when you get like the charge and time it just right.
And you can use it for traversal, which is what I use it for.
Right, like the hammer. Replacing the hammer.
Like the hammer.
Actually, yeah.
Dude, oh my god, this game. I've been texting my buddy who like I went to grad school with, and we're like, bro, is Fortnite fun?
Wait a second. What's going on here?
Yeah.
But yeah, Fortnite's fun. The only other game that I've been playing is Lightfall, Destiny Lightfall as well. And I think this expansion has done the opposite to what it usually does to the community, where it's usually we're hyped on it the first week, and the second week we get a little bit see some of the scars. This is kind of the flip, where it was like we were really disappointed with the campaign, but as the season goes on, we're like, well, okay, the story for the season is really good. Strand is actually really good once you get the build down, like the new subclass. The weapons are fun. The raid dropped last week. People really liked it. It was a lot easier than most, so people were a little upset about that. But in the same breath, it's more accessible to new players and lapsed players as well. So there's just two sides to that coin. But yeah, I think the sentiment around Lightfall has slowly been becoming a little bit more positive, but still the initial sour from that awful campaign is still looming over the community though. But all in all, it's an okay expansion. I got a 5 from IGN today. Or 6, sorry, from their final review. And I honestly don't necessarily disagree with that, but I will say that it has aged well, or aged better than I expected.
Fascinating. I think your comments about accessibility for Destiny really applies to Fortnite as well, because they made the no build mode for, to access more people, because obviously you access more people. Obviously you guys wouldn't be playing it if they didn't have that mode. Obviously I'm not the target demographic for that, yeah, I think that's cool.
Hell yeah.
All right, maybe we gotta all team up in Fortnite, even if it's no build. Maybe I'll.
Dude, I've lost maybe like 2 games, and the rest I've won every single one.
Yes.
Wow.
Take me to the top.
I got you.
Interesting. Okay.
Gage has returned
Gage
just
has
in time.
Perfect timing for what?
For us to join the topic of the show, The Last of Us timeout. This is our last Tlu timeout. Look for the light, episode 9. Let's do this, guys. The Last of Us episode 9 premiere had 8.2 million viewers. Insane. It's a 3.5 million increase over episode 1's 4.7 million viewers. It showed growth across nearly every single week of its 9-episode run. Really good stuff there. Also, we got word
almost unheard of in the TV world. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. The Last of Us Season 1 is also getting a Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray released this summer with a steelbook. So that's really exciting.
Oh.
That steelbook looks amazing, by the way. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah, there's actually like an actual, I think, an artist did like an actual spray paint on a wall of this art. In lead up to the premiere. I'm pretty sure that's right. I'll see if I can find it.
Heck yeah! What they're still making DVDs. It's releasing on DVD as well.
Yes.
Who's buying this on DVD for $40? That's insane.
Apparently, enough people.
Whew.
Listen, not everyone's a coastal elite like you, Dan.
$40 for DVD? It's only $5 more for Blu-ray. Not to mention, it'll probably be on sale for significantly less. Like, right away.
Call him a coastal elite. Like he isn't in like the Midwest.
Like he isn't in the middle of Kentucky. Like he isn't thousands of miles from the shore.
I wouldn't say thousands of miles. That might
whatever.
Be
however many eagles of fucking measurement you guys use.
Yeah,
hundreds.
Yeah, be more like in the hundreds. Yeah. All right. Well, but anyways, that gets out our news stories that I wanted to talk about. But let's jump into a little bit of conversation about episode 9. What did you guys think about episode 9?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. All right, end it. It was pretty good. That was it.
Cut it. That's it. That's the show. Okay. I guess I'll start it off. It's pretty good. I really I really liked it. You know what's funny? When you correctly guess something, it almost isn't as fun. You know what I mean? Like we talked about it in private a couple weeks ago. I had a guess as to what was going to happen with Ellie, and that we ended up seeing that in this episode. And it's kind of like it's pretty cool, but it's almost like, damn, if I thought of that, you guys probably could have thought of something better. It's my takeaway. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really sweet. Ashley Johnson portraying. Wait, we are getting into spoilers now, right, for the episode?
Oh, yes.
Are
Turn
we?
this off if you guys don't want to hear spoilers for episode 9.
Spoilers for episode of The Last of Us. The last episode of The Last of Us. Yeah, we got to see Ashley Johnson play Anna, or Anna, depending on your accent, who is Ellie's mom, and that was really sweet. Obviously, there's a lot of you can look into that as, Ellie passing on the role of Ellie. I thought that was very sweet. All the double meanings and whatnot. I thought that was very nice. I liked how they kind of hinted at Ellie's immunity. I think that's just enough for us to kind of get the gist and put that to bed. Like, because I didn't think they ever really needed to go into and explain that. So with the little tease that we got in this, I thought that was more than enough to kind of put that. Okay, I can kind of see how this maybe 1 in a million situation might result in something like that. And I thought the payoff did not land as much as the game. I'm curious to see how you guys feel with that, but I don't know if it's the performance. I don't know if it's the sound mixing, but there's just, I went back and I rewatched the ending of the game, and I've said this throughout the show. Like, when I'm watching the show, I'm not comparing it to the game. I'm just enjoying it as a show, but I do enjoy that I can go back and play the game, and there are certain scenes that I think the actors, the original actors, did better and performed better. I don't know if this is one of those situations, or if, like Christian, you're probably going to touch on if it's sound mixing or something like that. But yeah, the final payoff didn't hit as hard. I am very happy that they still kept it exactly as is, because I think it's still a fantastic ending to a story that deals with the themes that the story does. So overall, a good episode of television, especially compared to, again, not comparing it to the game, comparing to television. Very good episode of television, very good ending to the story. I didn't think it, I don't know, maybe it's because the season, especially the last half of the season, felt, a lot of people saying felt rushed. I certainly think it felt rushed. So I don't know if that's the reason, or if it's, like we said, editing or stuff like that, but I don't know. How did you guys feel about the final sort of payoff?
Christian, I feel like you have
I don't want to go. I have too much to say is my thing. No, let me go now.
Okay.
That way you can be the sweet little, like, I'll be the hater buffer. I thought episode 9 was fine. To be honest, I'll expand just for a second. Is if it weren't for the opening in the 60s, I think it was the 60s or 70s. If it weren't for the Jakarta scene, if it weren't for the entirety of episode 3, if it weren't for scenes like Anna giving birth, I don't think this show would have been justified for me as a viewer. I think it would have been a severely inferior show. And for the most part, I think the Joel and Ellie stuff is mostly inferior. I have to compare it to the game because that is the source material. It's an adaptation. So I have to consider deliveries in the show versus deliveries, like that relationship versus like TV show, game versus TV show. And I think the answer for Gage is that it did not hit for me at all. Most of the moments, honestly, didn't at all hit for me. It's actually the moments where they change some stuff subtly that or even just different conversations that hit harder because they had different stuff to work with. Whenever they were directly using lines from the game, it was, for me, like, in every way not as good because of the weight of the direction and the writing, where it feels like just like it's like verbatim just saying the lines, but the deliveries were mostly almost kind of static, or like very like one note, where like, okay, we're going to play this scene angry. And I think what the game, I think, for me, does in a lot of these cutscenes is it leaves a lot of room for nuance in the performances. You can feel the layers behind a lot of the deliveries. You can feel sadness whenever someone is mad, or the inverse. Where the game, it still felt like, okay, we're going to be angry in this scene, and it felt like that for a lot of the time for me personally. And then ultimately, when you get to that ending, and what Gage was saying about it not hitting, is that they're kind of saying, like, we've been through so much together, and we've done all these things, and they have, like, there's been like a lot of great moments in the show, but to me it felt like the Spark Notes version of the game. what gameplay allows us to do is build that relationship as we're playing. It's, for me, it has nothing to do with shooting clickers or, running away from, runners, hunters, whatever. It's the small conversations in between. The show has this. There's moments where like Ellie's learning how to shoot, right? In one of the earlier episodes, and we have like a conversation where they're just being Joel and Ellie, and that's great. But it comes in a montage of things where it's like transitioning from one scene to the other. And again, gameplay has that we're allowed to exist in these characters and build relationships just by talking over several hours. Even with 9 episodes, it still felt like we were barely scratching the surface of the relationship between Joel and Ellie that I think, for me, is why the ending felt flat, personally.
And where's the guitar scene? Like, they hinted at the guitar, like Joel teaching her guitar, but like we don't have any of that emotional connection between the two of them, because I think of what you're saying, we didn't get enough time of those little nuanced conversations that would, get them to build their relationship to that point. Like, I think that's been my complaint from the get-go, is there hasn't been enough time between Ellie and Joel to build that relationship through the entire series, compared to the games. And of course, we are going to compare to the games because we played it. I think if I went into this series completely blind, not knowing anything about this, I think I would think of it higher than I do playing the game. But unfortunately, I can't just separate that in my mind. But yeah, and like the other thing, Christian, to kind of go back or piggyback on something you said, like the game's pace and all of that may be different, but also like you as the player may make decisions that impacts how the story plays out as well. The scene that I'm gonna say is pretty much one of the final scenes when Joel breaks in to save Ellie. You break down that door, and Joel yells at the doctor and immediately shoots that doctor in the head as soon as he grabs the scalpel, which I think is very fascinating, because in that moment, I'm like, holy fuck, Joel just fucking no holds bar, just shot that doctor in the face. Whereas when I played the game, I was very hesitant to do that. I took several moments. Yeah. It took several moments. I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do this. And then shot him, which feels like a very different tone, which obviously changes some things. But yeah, very fascinating. But agree completely with what you said about the new stuff in the series. I really liked that, and Marlene and Ellie's mom, their relationship, I very much enjoyed that, and kind of wish we got more of that as well. Which I think would have helped, having more episodes to kind of see more of that stuff play out. But yeah, and I think that actually is a nice piece that we were missing from the game's story. So it was cool to see that context added there as well.
That earlier scene where with Ashley and Marlene, I'm banking on the actress's name. I'll just say, I guess, Anna and Marlene, where she had to beg Marlene to kill her. I was like, damn, Ashley is going off here. This is a really good performance. I thought that whole scene was really well done as well.
Dude, she was so good.
So good, man. Incredible. But yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that you guys are saying with the ending not hitting well. I feel like the music did a lot of heavy lifting for me with those scenes, especially because it was straight from the game, especially for the giraffe scene, using that score for that particular one. It's like, oh, this is the exact song. I'm glad they kept that in there. But yeah, the draft scene did not hit the same way it did in the game. It and I think it is because of the time we spend with this characters feels like it's less time, even though this is technically 9 hours. I don't know how long it takes to, and well, we spent an entire episode with Bill and Frank, and we spent an entire with Riley and Ellie, so it is less time for sure. But yeah, I like when they diverge from the source material and add stuff to the story. Definitely is for the best. And when they're reading the lines word for word, there's a few exceptions where I think it is better, like with David and Ellie when Ellie was captured and she did the finger line. I thought that was really, really good. I think Bella did an amazing job in that episode in particular. But yeah, most of the times when they're doing the exact same line, is like, or they say it a little bit differently, I was like, just say the line. And if they don't say the line, and if they do say the line, rather, it's like so close.
Right.
But the scene with Tommy and Joel in the when they're talking in the town, it's like that's not in the game at all. But I love that addition. I thought that was a great addition to Joel's character to see how he's been reacting to Sarah's death all these years later.
Right.
And yeah, there's a lot of scenes like that where it's like, I'm glad they added this. This wasn't in the game, but I'm glad they have it here. And the confession to Ellie with how he almost took his life, I thought that was beautiful. Like Ellie's like, time heals all wounds, and Joel was like, it wasn't time. That didn't, like, that got me. Yeah. That got me really good, more than the ending did. Like, I'm glad they had these things sprinkled throughout, even though the straight from the game adaptation stuff didn't always hit. But I thought Ellie's or Bella's performance at the end, like where her eyes are like shifting and then she looks up, and it's like, I thought that was really like well done for the most part.
That's so funny you bring up that line, it wasn't time that did it, because I liked everything except for that line.
Really? Yeah.
It was a bit on the nose.
Whenever things are a bit too on the nose for me, especially considering like the climax of this relationship is when he saves her. Like that is like the ultimate like show of that. Like, yes, he cares for her in the same way he cared for his own daughter. Having him say this line before that, it's like, okay, well, I mean, we know he cares, right? But like having that be the first time he explicitly shows it, I think for me was more powerful in the game than to just say it like offhandedly in this conversation.
At the end, they changed the discussion between him and Ellie as well, and he didn't like do the little subtle touch of his watch like he did in the game. So I agree, like they're a little bit more heavy-handed with the I care about you, Ellie sort of thing. But it still worked for me. It's very, I don't know. It's easy. I'm a little bit more easy in that category. But yeah, I definitely see what you're saying.
It's similar to the first episode, something that Christian and I brought up with the flashback, right? It's almost like when you have, I guess by the time you hit episode 9, it doesn't matter whether or not you're a film person, you know who's behind the camera because you can see the quality. But say for episode 1, it's like the reason why that flashback bugged me, and I'm guessing why it bugged Christian, is that when you have so many talented people behind the camera, you don't expect that, and that's, I don't know if that's kind of the same thing you're talking about with that line at the very end, where that's how I felt, where it's like, you didn't, like him calling her baby girl at the last episode, that was us seeing that he now cares for her. You know what I mean? Like that was all that we needed. So when he actually says that line out loud, similar to the flashback of the soldier aiming the gun at Ellie and then it flashes back to Joel and Sarah, I was like, that's kind of lazy. Like we understand what's happening in the character's head. You don't have to show us. So I agree with Christian where I kind of felt that way with that. I also feel like that is just, it's almost a symptom of, I think, the lack of screen time for Joel and Ellie. It's not necessarily that there wasn't enough episodes, although I do agree, especially towards the last half. I think you could argue that the story arc in episode 6 or episode 8 probably could have used another episode. So either them going to the university and them having their falling out, and then recuperating, because that was another thing that caught me off. I don't think I was on the podcast that episode, but like there are certain things that felt really rushed, and they all revolve around Joel and Ellie. So in the game, you know, Ellie finds out that Joel's trying to pawn her off on Tommy, so she takes off. They have to go rescue her. They have to fight. It makes him realize how dangerous it is. There's external factors, and then he decides, you know what, I'm going to see this through. In the show, it's very much you guys have a quick argument, and then Joel decides 30 minutes later, actually, you know what, never mind, it's fine. So there are certain things like that happen, and I feel like all of that affects the payoff. And actually, I want to say, like, I wasn't as hot on it as everyone else was at the beginning. And obviously, I didn't know this, but now I kind of like it even less. Everybody loves that scientist bit at the very beginning, but it kind of takes away from the payoff of the ending of the episode, because that scientist has a line that says, "There's no vaccines, there's no cure." So what I've seen in the discourse over the show is that it's a completely different discourse, and it seems like it's died down almost already because people are going, well, look at the first episode. He said that there's no cure. So obviously Joel made the right decision. And I'm like, man, that inclusion of that scene kind of just takes that whole moral sort of ambiguity and interesting conversation to have around the last episode and kind of mutes it a little bit, I feel like, because then people already had this idea in their head from the first episode. Oh, well, the Fireflies wouldn't have been able to do it, so Joel was in the right. And it's like, that's not what you're supposed to think. You're supposed to wonder about this and like, okay, Joel took away the possibility of. So that's something as well that I feel like didn't hit quite as hard in the last episode because of choices they made. Like, I love Jakarta stuff. I loved Bill and Frank's changes. But there are certain things that I think, and if I'm being completely honest, this is crazy. I know you guys are not going to like this.
Oh no.
Well,
I don't think
hold on.
episode. Sorry, go ahead.
The easiest answer to say as well was the 60s. It's 40 years later they've scientific advancement. That's the easiest comeback. Scientific advancement in the 2000s is better than the 60s. They are probably better capable of making a vaccine at that point in 200003.
But
even though there's still no cure.
Is that what they're trying to say? Because I think in real life you can't, like, fungi don't have it. Like, that's the whole thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is no vaccine for fungal infections.
So then that would counter that counter argument immediately, because in real life now in 2023 there aren't. So then,
but again, if people are arguing this, it's like you're missing the moral question that the game is asking.
For sure.
Sorry, you were leading up to something that you wanted to say.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a turn being a hater boy here. Ooh. I don't think episode 7 should have been in there. It was a beautiful episode. I absolutely love Storm Reed, but Left Behind. But when you think of the original game, I heard this on a podcast I listened to about these two, a show writer and an actor. They do a podcast together. I absolutely love it. Very, very, very good stuff that they talk about, and they're talking about the show. And they were mentioning that, like, one of the people in the podcast has played the game, one of the people hasn't. And he was the guy that had played it said that while he loved this episode, it feels like they put it in there because we all expect it. But when you think about the original package, the original story of The Last of Us, Left Behind was not in it. So it's a different pacing. Yes, exactly. It changes things. And like you said, in a season that already feels rushed, for me, somebody who loves the game, I love seeing that in live action. But for somebody who is experiencing The Last of Us as I would have at that moment, that absolutely does change the pacing of the story. And it does kind of, that's now a whole hour we spent with Ellie in the past that we didn't get bonding with Joel and Ellie. And I feel like a lot of these things, while they don't seem like big decisions on their own, kind of add up to this payoff that we all kind of are on the same page where we're like, it was good, but it didn't hit like the game, right?
And see, I think that please don't chastise me for this. I feel it coming. I feel the exact same way about episode 3. That episode was phenomenal. I love that.
No, this one I can't stand.
No. Hear me out.
It's the same argument.
Hear me out. It's the same argument because that story doesn't really add that much to Joel and Ellie's travel. Ellie doesn't even meet Bill in this version of The Last of Us, unlike the game. So, like, I don't feel like it really added to the overall story. And I absolutely love that episode. I think it was great.
The truck. But they could have gotten the truck any other way.
I think you're right.
No. You're thinking in terms of explicit narratives. You are not thinking thematically. On the thematic level, it does everything to support the final thesis of the game, which is care in the world of apocalypse. It is entirely in line with The Last of Us.
Fair, but I don't think it's at the expense of Joel and Ellie's relationship, which also is showing the same.
Which
thing.
goes back to what we saying that this show needed more episodes.
I completely agree.
I think
Christian, do you know why I agree with Dan? And I did bring this up when we did our recap of episode 3. I said that I've heard from people that have no experience with the game, that don't know Bill and Frank like we do, that what was this episode?
Sure.
What was this for,
they
right?
Called it filler.
They called it filler. Now, I agree. It's a beautiful episode of television. It is masterfully made, edited, shot, all that stuff. Actors did a great job. But because the story of The Last of Us is about The Last of Us, yes, it is about human connection. But I feel like the show did a better point of making, the game made a better point of making that. Whereas the show, like, I'm seeing a lot of, like, again, not online, not terminally online, but from people in my circle that are watching this, like coworkers and all that stuff that have no experience with the game. The reaction to the show has been a bit more lukewarm than what people online are sort of touting about. And I think it's because of things like what Dan's saying is like, yeah, I mean, we know that this fits the theme of the story, but I don't think the show did as good of a job as the game did to sort of really make it feel like this is a story just about these two characters, because we didn't spend as much time with them, right? Like in The Last of Us, you spend 15 hours with Joel and Ellie. There's no two ways about it. Now, again, a lot of that is gameplay. You have to cut that down. But even when you remove the gameplay and the combat, because this is a television show and it jumps around to different points of view, not even the flashback episodes, the time spent with Kathleen, the time spent with Tommy and Sam and Henry, like, you just lose time spent with your characters. You lose time that you're able to connect and sort of empathize and understand them. So when they make these crazy decisions, it's harder to sort of get into their headspace, I think, at least in terms of the show. The game didn't have that same problem. So things like Bill and Frank and Left Behind DLC felt more earned in the game.
Yeah,
I think we just needed more episodes.
Yes.
I don't think removing those episodes would have solved anything. And just adding more would have probably
For sure.
solved it. Yeah.
Exactly to what Rose's saying. If the Frank and Bill episode played out the exact same way, except only Frank died, and then they came by, got the stuff from Bill, and maybe Bill checked out right after they left, totally different story, because at least the characters are explicitly, and like you said, Kristen, I know that, you know, not everything has to be explicit, but I feel like that would have solved a lot of the issues, at least for that one episode. Maybe people still would have complained about episode 7, but I don't know.
I'm not with you. I would have to disagree, but I'll cap it there.
No, that's fair.
Instead,
I think we all agree though that it did need more episodes. Like that, if there were more,
it should have had the
episodes-
standard 10. It's very strange that it didn't. I think one got lost in the editing process. I think that's the rumor.
Wasn't the
Got a
first
budget.
episodes? Wasn't the first episode originally supposed to be 2 episodes, and they put it together for some reason? It didn't.
Yes,
something about that?
there was reshoots, and there was
Again, that wouldn't have solved anything. It would just
Right.
made it
No.
longer. But
right.
yeah,
Apparently, yeah, the first episode would have covered what episode 1 and 2 cover. Or no, sorry, the first episode would have been episode 1 and 2, and then what we know as 2 would have been 3. Allegedly, is how it worked before. But
so yeah.
all this to say, I'm not as high as everyone on this show. I thought it was fine. You know, if I had to give it a rating, at best I could give it like an 8 out of 10, whatever that means. You know, like I think it's a great show. I think it's fantastic for people who have not played the game to be able to engage in this story, because I think it's a story worth telling. But for me, I just like Joel and Ellie. When I think of them, like there will still always be game Joel and Ellie, and that's no knock against Pedro and Bella, because I thought they were great actors. I just think that the show didn't have enough to work with them to deliver something that I thought was like really resonant, in my opinion. So much so that like when I like saw like announcements for like season 2 and multiple seasons and stuff, it's like this is being turned into content. Like we're getting too much like setup for season 2 in a story that I really liked. That like again, when we didn't know there was going to be a part 2 at the time, Neil didn't even know this, was very much like a standalone story. And again, that just like the contentification of it was like a little bit, again, gave me the ick. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to watch season 2 anymore, to be honest. I probably will, just to be part of the conversation. But yeah, it's not an exciting thing for me for this to be turned into something like that. I don't know if I'm making sense.
yeah, I feel like I would push back on that. I would say that while there's hints to things that you're talking about, I if the show got canceled, I'd say they did a pretty good job at leaving it where it is, because a lot of those references that you caught, that they absolutely are preparing.
It's because I know.
Future. It's only because you know, though, right? Like that's the thing. Like they're not really saying like, oh, David didn't sit down and like, I bet you'll be real trouble in the future, young lady. Like, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't that on the nose. Also, shout out, because I wasn't here for this last week's episode as well, or episode 8. Shout out to the actor that played David. He fucking killed it. That guy's creepy and disturbing, and I feel like subconsciously it's easy to not praise people that do that, but like that's really hard to make to be unsettling. I guess not easy. So the guy that played David was awesome.
Troy was great in that episode too.
Troy was fantastic. Yeah. But here's the thing, like that's only a stigma with video game actors, because like we all know that they actually acted on The Last of Us. So I didn't think that Troy and Ashley were going to have issues in this, because I'm like, oh, they're already good actors, because that is actual acting. So yeah, I've seen a lot of people say, oh yeah, that's the voice of Troy. He actually did it really. It's like, well, what do you mean actually? Like it's just he's just doing what he did before, just not in this leotard this time. Yeah. I will say I thought the my final little piece on the final episode series as a whole, I will say I agree with you. 8.5 is pretty much where I'm sitting. Some episodes, like I think episode 5 was probably a 9.5 for me. Like I thought that was a fantastic episode. Same with episode 3. Series as a whole, I'm sitting around the same. I think 8.5 is fair. But I will say there are some things in the show that I think they did better than the game, and I thought I felt the weight of Joel's rampage in the show a lot. Again, bringing it back to the importance of sound mixing and editing and all that stuff, I thought the rampage scene was pretty good. It hit, like, it wasn't glorifying at all. This was a man going on a rampage. Like, I think the show kind of did that really well, and that's kind of like that's not an easy scene to shoot nowadays, especially in the States. You know what I mean? Like, I think they handled that pretty well. And they didn't alter it. They didn't tone it down, which is important because for the future seasons, right? This needs to be a brutal act of violence, and I think it was. So I appreciated that. I thought the hospital scene was really, really well shot.
No, I needed to go harder. I needed more violence. I'm sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a more body count or more visceral?
I needed it to not be a montage
of him just shooting people, essentially.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
That's fair. That is fair criticism, because you do in the game sometimes get up and close and personal to people and shiv people, you know? So you don't really see that. Yeah.
Or if they're going to do sound mixing, I wanted it, like, because the sound was great during that scene, that montage scene. Like, it was, like, beautifully shot. I'll say that much. If they were going to do that, I also would have liked the inverse of that, which is in the game, is, like, that sound mixing doesn't come in until after the fact. Like, when everything, the noise of the guns and the chasing is drowned out, and it's only the breathing of Joel and him talking to Ellie as they're trying to escape the hospital. Would have liked that in the show after the fact as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
Also, more infected, please, because, like, I feel like this is a show that is about human interaction, but also, like, infected should be in the show too, which I feel like we only got a handful of, and there was criticism of that Craig Mazin, I believe, addressed. Craig Mazin addressed and said future seasons will be swarming with more infected monsters. Of course, there's more iterations of them in The Last of Us Part 2 as well. So, I think there was definitely a lack of infected. I feel like I don't know.
Yeah, looking back at it, I can see that. It didn't bother me as I was watching it. I didn't feel in the moment that it was lacking. I thought that when the infected were there, it felt like they should be there, and when they weren't there was something else going on. But I guess I could see that argument. But like, he's already said that there will be more infected, so that is a plus side, right? So obviously, whether or not you agree with it, there will be more infected in the next season, which is something to look forward to. I mean, episode 2 was fantastic. That museum scene was awesome, right? Like that's
what I wanted more of. I wanted more lead ups where it's just like, honestly, it's kind of weird. Scavenging, they did it twice. I thought was great. Like the gas station moment was great because they have opportunities to converse with each other and show who they are, independent but also together. Yeah. And the joke book comes out. Like more stuff like that, I think would have gone a long way.
The Ellie and David scene is the one that I felt most lacking, because that moment in the game is so freaking tense when you're fighting with David and endless amounts of infected are coming in at you. We didn't get that scene. Like that was a big scene that I was missing.
If I could personally pick where we added another episode, I would have added to the David storyline, because that's the one thing you get in the game that you don't get in the show, which is the false sense of security. Right, even though in the game it is like you see this David guy, like this guy's pretty creepy. I did think it was really, especially for the time, really excellent writing to have that sort of have that set piece where you're there with David, the infected come, and then he turns out he's got a gun, and Ellie even says, like, "You have a gun?" And he's like, that is a very interesting 3D character choice to have this guy seemingly have Ellie's best interest in mind, defend it, and then it leads to that payoff of everything happens for a reason. I don't know if episode 8 had ended with, you know, Ellie getting shot off the horse, right, and then everything that we see after that is the next episode. I felt like personally that's where I would fit that extra episode, because I agree with you, Dan. Something was lost just because of how little we got to see with David and Ellie.
And sorry.
I have a very weird small moment with that David and Ellie conversation, like one of the first contact conversation, where it's just a matter of preference. I think the game was stronger in that sense because we don't know the fate of Joel in the game. It's like we're like hunting this deer on our own as Ellie, and like we don't know what happened to Joel. It's been months. It's been months in game time, and then she says medicine, and that's when it clicks. Like, oh, Joel is alive. But in the game, we know he's like he's still alive, and
Yeah, what you're saying, Gage, I think it's true where we lose something when we don't get that God, what did you
Little
say?
twist, I guess you can
Yeah.
call it.
The amount of time with David, with the
Right.
fighting with the infected, and again in the same breath you do get something gained though with like his backstory and
Yes.
being a little bit more involved in his town, and you get to learn more about the people that he's quote unquote protecting. So they dive more into David as a character, but at the same time we don't get that payoff, I think you said, with the initial interaction, and it does feel less than when compared to the game. But at the same time, you're getting all this really cool backstory to this creepy character that we didn't get in the game,
which
that
is
I thought
exactly
was really cool.
Yeah, which is exactly the type of expansion that I want. I loved showing his community and how dire things were, because like it's easy to just be like, oh, these are the bad guys, they're cannibals, and the game does that because you play as Joel and you end up massacring the entire village. So the game wants to give you a reason so that you obviously don't feel bad about it, right? So it's like, oh, they're all cannibals, fuck them. But in the show, it's like, yeah, you very well get to see that it seems like where the game doesn't really talk about it at all, the show makes it very clear that it's like David and a couple of guys are the only ones that know what's really going on, right? And you see like the dilapidated sort of like state of things in this town, and like even Troy, like we were all saying, Troy did an excellent job. Even this guy, who's his right-hand man, you can tell he's kind of like, fuck, we really shouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? Like, you can, David calls him out. He's like, I sense doubt in thee, or whatever stupid ye old English he says, right? It's like,
and Joel, when he hesitates to take a bite of the food when they're sitting at dinner, like, oh, perfect.
Small things like that, right? And then great character moment, fucking David's got the biggest plate, and he's just fucking mowing down. You know what I mean? Like, these are like, I agree with you, Ro. These are exactly the types of things that I wanted to see, where it's like, again, not necessarily a change per se, but just fleshing out and giving you more reason to like understand the world. I thought that was great.
My when I was playing, or when I was watching this with my mom, I would sometimes like show her the cutscene version from the game and stuff like that.
Right.
And there would be times where there's like, and then she asked me like, so what parts do you play? And it was like, the hospital scene that we just like. So you're just shooting people. It's like, yeah, that's like, that sounds fucking awful. Like, why would you play that part? It's like, yeah,
you don't get it, Mom.
You don't get it, Mom.
It's for love.
It's for exactly. She was just like so like shocked that like, oh, you play the shooting parts where you're massacring all these people,
right?
But yeah, I thought that was funny.
I close my eyes, Mom, when I shoot them.
Yeah, I don't like it. I have to do it.
I cried the whole time, Mom. I didn't want to. Yeah.
Oh, God,
for love.
I was about to get on a tangent. No.
No.
I'll end on this comment, guys. What do we have to look forward to? Neil Druckmann. If you have any negative criticism out there, guys, Neil doesn't care. He doesn't care. How they react is how they react. That is completely outside of our control. How do we make the best TV show version of our story? That's the problem we wrestle with every day. Straight from the horse's mouth. Right there.
I mean, that's the correct answer, right? And if you're an artist, you make art, and
that's fair. Yeah,
that's it.
I was one of the people that hated The Last of Us Part 2 story, but I completely respect his ability. Yeah,
Too bad.
All right. Well, any other comments around The Last of Us HBO?
I am rooting for the success of The Last of Us because there are lots of untapped potential in the video game space for great stories to be adapted to television, so that my familia can experience these stories that, like Ro was saying, people that normally don't play video games get to experience them. So I'm rooting for the success of HBO. Obviously, it's been very successful. I'm excited for season 2. I don't know.
I hope they only do the games and do not do any side projects, because they see that this is a well to tap into and start making spin-offs like they're doing with Creed. We don't need this.
I got bad news for you, Christian.
It's coming.
Oh, no.
It's coming.
They confirmed that?
No.
Not yet, but like also kind of.
It's bound to happen, man. It's bound to happen.
Yeah. Fedra School premiering 2025.
Oh God, I don't know how I feel about that either. But but in the same breath, like I'm the guy who was, give me an ish side game. Like I would like that, or like a prequel game where it features Anna or something like that. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that now. You
No,
know?
I know that look, Christian.
Yeah.
No more prequels. No more prequels.
No more prequels. No more prequels. That's enough. Leave that to the Uncharted's. Stay more Uncharted games like that. Last of Us. Stay pure.
You know what? Real quick, Ro, since the guys gave their scores, what would you score it?
I would give it. I give it a 9 out of 10. If I had to compare it to this group, I think I'm a little bit higher on than Christian and Gage are. But
I'm a hater.
I think 8 is a fair score though. I think that's
Honestly,
I think that's where I'd be if they didn't give it an 8. I mean,
I think I have two different scores. If I hadn't seen or if I hadn't played the games before, I would probably say this show's like a 9 or 9.5. But
Right.
having played the games, I think it's probably about an 8 for me in terms of how it did everything. So yeah.
No.
yeah, there I don't know. Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of changes that I didn't like, but it almost never like ruined my enjoyment. Like, oh, they shouldn't have done that, and then I got past it really quickly. But there's still problems, like everybody is saying. We talked about it for like 30 minutes, but I just had such a good time watching it that it didn't really bother me at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that it's not better or worse. It's just different. Because it comes back to the first thing that Christian said. They made some character changes. Joel, like I what you said, the first episode we ever talked about this, the difference between grief and trauma was spot on. That was spot on. And I feel like, we just got a different Joel because of it. So just different. You always have the game to go back to.
And I will.
Give
me part 2 remake.
Yes.
No, please.
Or next gen patch. I'll take one or the other.
I think the next gen patch happened, right? Those like, you know what I mean?
Kind of. Like it got a 60.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want like a version of that on PS5, not like upscaled or whatever. I want the director's cut, whatever.
Yeah. Because all they did was give it a 60 FPS patch, but they didn't change anything about it.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I want that beefed up version.
So not remake. Sorry. Yeah, I want exactly the beefed up version.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Remake Uncharted 2 or 1. I didn't mean to say 2.
Uncharted 1. Only remake Uncharted 2.
Remake Uncharted 1. Thank you again to everyone joining us live on YouTube and Twitch, as well as podcast services everywhere, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcast. Thank you, Ro. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Gage. I am Daniel, and this has been Podcast PXN, and we are out. Much love, and keep on gaming.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Adios.